So what we're going to talk about first is Bitcoin, then we'll cover Ethereum, then we'll go into Ethereum BTC. So yeah, leave some likes, retweets for the video, and let's get this thing going. Obviously, we've had some bullish momentum on Bitcoin, over the last handful of days. Extremely strong move up from the lows. If you guys have been following me for some time, we've been watching this range essentially since basically the start of May or mid-May. Whenever that dump finished, we established this range very early. And I was very consistent on, kind of being a bear near the highs and a bull near the lows. Unfortunately, when we had this last test of the lows here, unfortunately, I got fudded out here. Not by anyone, but by myself. We had multiple tests of the low down here, and then we broke down, and I got bearish near the bottom. Unfortunately, it happens. But the mistake that I didn't make was being stubborn. Once we got back in the range, flipped this little level here, I began to target the mid-range and then obviously the range high. So that's the key in trading. Obviously investing, a little bit different, right? Like you want to buy as low as possible. But when it comes to trading, if you didn't buy here, right, it's okay. If you bought here and sold here and got a 2R, that's just as good as the person who bought here and sold here and got a 2R. It's the same. So it's not as relevant in terms of, where you got in per se. It's just about being able to have no bias and have a bias, but be willing to flip that bias if evidence in the chart tells you to do so. You have to be willing to be wrong. And that's something a lot of people aren't able to do. It's the ability to say, okay, I'm wrong. What can I do now? How do I get on the long side, right? So when I was wrong here, what I needed to start doing was to say, okay, how can I get involved in longs? Because I'm now flipping to the upside rather than just trying to short every fucking move on the way up. You have to be able to flip your bias, be like water, right? Like that Bruce Lee quote you always see thrown around in trading, be fluid with it. So once we regain the lows, right? After a range low touch, you target the range high, right? You target the EQ, flip that, target the high. So we've obviously had a massive move up. We broke above the range high. You got a nice pullback into support here. And then we have another leg. So, I mean, if you're looking at this right now, this is another break in market structure that we've had. And we've put in a higher high. So we essentially have a low, right? A high, a higher low, and a higher high. So this was another little fake out here where it broke the low, but then ended up moving up. So right now, I think the expectation on Bitcoin is you want to be aiming for longs on pullbacks. Where are those longs going to occur is the question. Are we going to pull back from here to the range high? Or are we going to trade up further before getting, another correction here? So what I'm looking at on Bitcoin right now is this level right over here. So I actually was hoping we would test this level on this move, but we never got that high. But now you can see we've come into this resistance. We've basically run every high, kind of in this range into an untested level of resistance. So I would assume that there's going to be some resistance here. Could we push higher? Sure. Anything is possible, but this is a level that I'm watching for now. If you zoom out to like the higher time frames, the weekly, the daily, and things like that, really the only levels I see are kind of like up here and up here. So we're into that first level right now, right? So that daily level there lines up very nicely with this 12-hour order block that I had marked. And this level up there marks up with that order block there. So you could argue that we push higher to one of these levels before seeing a correction, but these are going to be the kind of levels that I'm going to use to determine, my bias. And so if we get some sort of move up through here, right, and then a pullback below, this would be like a shorting opportunity for me because this would then be a very extended move, and I'm just expecting some sort of correction, for a potential higher low. We don't know yet, right? Right now, I'm not really interested in shorting here. It's too early to tell. If we get some signs of distribution on the low time frame, and so what do I mean by that? I want to see maybe these highs get run, right? And then a move back below. that would be a signal to me that, this might be ready for a pullback. But as it stands right now, I'm not interested in shorting this level blindly. I'm not interested in shorting here. I think a lot of people, the funding is still not even that negative yet or negative yet. I think it's kind of flat or close to. Someone can fact check me on that if you like. But I don't want to short here. I would rather see signs of distribution, meaning like a run of the highs and then a failure. That would tell me that, okay, we've now trapped some late longs, right? And we're going to get a bit of a pullback now to squeeze the people who longed up here and obviously here. And then maybe we get a pullback into the range high. That would be a short trigger for me. Otherwise, I'm not interested in shorting yet. So what would long scenarios look like for me? A long scenario would be some sort of pullback from here. Maybe we run higher, but some sort of pullback from here in towards the range high. Maybe in towards this level here, okay? And then a reclaim of the range high. That would be a long trigger for me. So somewhere into the neighborhood of like 38 through 40. Come back, 38 through 40K, reclaim the range high. That would be a long trigger for me. So essentially what I'm saying is I don't have a trade right here on Bitcoin. Maybe there's a scalp on the low time frame that you want to get into. However you trade, that is up to you. But for me personally, there's no trade for me right here. I need to wait and see if we get some sort of move above the highs and then a breakdown for a shorting opportunity, or I want to see a pullback. And then I want to see bullish market structure, which is going to tell me that a higher low is being put in to get long. And then obviously target back into here and then as high as $50,000. What do I mean by bullish market structure? So a perfect example is right here. Once we broke market structure, when we come back to this level, I want to see price show me that it wants to hold here. So what's a few examples of that? There's a bullish 12-hour swing failure pattern. And then we also have bullish market structure form on the low time frame, right? So we come into here, we put in that nice wick, and then we break a high. That's your signal to start getting long in here. Same idea for what I'm looking for here. So if we come into this order block here, what do I want to see to get long? I want to see a reason for bullishness. So if we come down here, right, put in a low, run the low, reclaim it, or come down here and then start putting in higher highs and higher lows, right? That's going to be my signal that, okay, now I want to get involved in a long, because this is a high time frame area that I want to be bullish, and the high time frame market structure is bullish. The H12 chart put in a higher low, right, and a higher high. So the H12 market structure is bullish. So what I'm looking for is the low time frame to get in sync with the high time frame. So when we pull back here on the H1, I'm not just going to short support here. If this starts putting in bullish market structure on the low time frame, that's telling me that it is now going to line up with the high time frame. Okay, I'm interested in getting in longs now. So that's exactly what happened back there that I was showing you, and that's the kind of thing I would want to see happen here. Give us a dip, put in some low time frame bullish market structure, and then I'm going to frame my entry within this order block or on a flip of the range high. Right now, I do not have a trade on Bitcoin here. I think if you were long, we are into resistance right here. So I think if you long down here, if you longed here, this is not a bad place to take some money off the table. I'm not saying you have to close your position, but it's definitely not a bad idea to take some money off of the table, or at least start trailing up your stops and locking in some of those gains. So the things that I'm looking for, I'm gonna cover it just real quick one more time. So some sort of distribution here on the low time frame. We do have, a lot of people have messaged me about this. We do have like a daily bear div playing out on the RSI, right? So you have a lower high here and you have a higher high here, okay? So that is a daily bearish divergence on the RSI. The RSI is also above the 70 line and putting in a daily bear div. We have not had the RSI this high since way back here, right? And then obviously a little bit here, but it's been a while since the RSI has been, that high. So what does that mean? It means we've had basically a 50% rally you know, from the lows to the highs in a very short period of time. Really strong price action, right? So it makes sense that the RSI is starting to get overbought. But what you have to remember is the RSI can stay overbought for a long time. The RSI was overbought way back here at 20K. The RSI was overbought. At 40K, the RSI was overbought, right? And then finally at 60K, the RSI was overbought, and we started putting in that, you know, bearish divergence, and then it dumped like months and months later. So I see a lot of people who have messaged me and just been like, oh, there's a daily bear div on the RSI. It's something I see, I'm aware of it, but that alone is not enough of a reason for me to just short the market, because this can stay overbought and above the 70 line and price can continue to go up. Yes, the RSI can be Confluence that you use, a tool that you have in your tool belt there to give you more reasons to, you know, maybe along with price action and other things to get into a trade, but just shorting a bear div is not enough. Price has been trending very strong, but a pullback, you know, down to here, something like that, could be enough to reset the RSI, right? And to let price cool off before its next leg. A move above this high and then some sort of failure back below 45, right, would be a short trigger down into, you know, 41, and then 38 to 40 is that order block. If we get the short trigger, I'm looking to long here. I'll short it into a long. If we do not get the short trigger, right? If we do not get my short trigger and we just pull back from here, I won't be in a short, but I will be looking, right, for reasons to get long on the low time frame, right? So a little breaker type of play with an SFP or just bullish market structure. So the plan for now, if we run the high, looking to short a break back down below this key level, 45,240, okay? Regardless of whether or not we run the high, I am looking for bullishness between 38 to 40K, and I am looking to get long if we break below and reclaim 41,000. So I'm going to be watching this very closely, and obviously I'll update you guys on Twitter, on Discord as things progress. But for right now, there's no trade for me. I mean, if you shorted this level blind, you got a pretty nice entry, but still too early for me to tell if this is going to break down. Like, I would not be surprised if this legs up again. It looks pretty strong on the H4. The H1, right, did break market structure here and is now retesting a bearish order block. Could it just roll over from here? Of course. But I would not be surprised at all if, you know, this was just kind of a run of the lows here, and we're going to see a push up higher than here, squeeze it a little more, and then we can get short. I like to short once I have a good idea that a top has been put in. I like to short situations like this. This is what I mean by distribution here. This is very similar price action to what we have right now, right? And then we're grinding up a bunch of people short here. Price fails to dump, and then it runs those people, and then it breaks down, right? So I'm not even short on this. I'm short after that run happens, and then we break down. I'm shorting this, right, with my stop up there. That's kind of similar action that I'm looking for in this current kind of zone. So if I go to where we are right now, you can see it looks kind of similar, right? So we see like just a grind here, a run up, run the highs, and then break structure. Once we break structure, I'm looking to sell the retest, and then your risk is defined by the stop run back into here. Okay? So Ethereum's just been on this monster fucking rip, right? Monster rip on the hourly, just fucking climbing. So how do you get on board with this is kind of, you know, the question you need to be asking yourself. If you look at Ethereum, first thing you had to do was determine when did the trend shift, right? Once you know that the trend shifted from bearish to bullish, that was your clue to zoom into the low time frame and start piling into longs on pullbacks, right? So the Ethereum range that we were watching ended up being fucking quite nice because it literally was the bottom, right? So we had 3 taps of the lows here. 1, 2, 3, and then boom. And the exact same setup at the lows played out on Ethereum, played out on Bitcoin. And what you saw here was the H12 was just selling off, and then it made a lower low, but just slightly, and then it completely engulfed the move. So once we had this flip, that's your clue to zoom in and start looking for longs only, okay? So it's a breaker. This is the exact same as the Bitcoin bottom. It's a breaker, right? So it's an up candle before a down move that does not act as a bearish order block. So it's the exact opposite of like this, okay? So this is a bearish order block here. Price came up, rejected, sold off. Same thing here. Price came up, rejected, and sold off. So a bullish breaker is a bearish order block, right? So here's a bearish order block, okay? And then here is another bearish order block. But a bullish breaker is when the bearish order block fails and then it flips and becomes support, okay? That is what's happening right here, okay? So you have bearish order blocks getting respected the entire way down. And then this last one here, price engulfs it, flips it, there's your retest, and then it starts trading higher. So anytime you see this kind of thing happen, it generally is going to happen at trend shifts, so at tops or bottoms of moves. And this was your clue to start getting long. When I look here and we had that low and Bitcoin looked like it was breaking down, I didn't have the confidence to long there because I don't know where my risk is. Is it way down here? Is it here? Is it here? I don't know. But once we had this breaker play out, that's when I knew it was time to start being bullish on Ethereum up into the range highs. And that's exactly what we saw. We'll zoom in here. We came into the range low, and the H1 actually gave you the exact same setup here. This is a breaker right at the range low. Up candle, down move, SFP, flipped it, boom. But you don't have to long down here, right? You might want to wait, but we hit the range low, and then what are we doing? Low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. We're putting in bullish market structure. And then once we flipped this H12 breaker, which also was the level of market structure, right? What is this level? This is the market structure on the H12 right here. Once we broke that, this is a trend shift. So you need to now take off your bear goggles and put on the bull goggles. So you didn't catch the bottom, but I bet if you started longing Ethereum from 1900 to 2100, you're still pretty fucking happy. So based on just the breaker alone, you could have longed Ethereum here. On a retest of the breaker, your stop would go either at the low that was run or at the base of the breaker. Usually my stop is there. The target is the range high. That's a 3R trade. If you had a tighter stop, could be even higher. But that is if you just wanted to long this based on the H12. But what I'm telling you is once this move happened here, everything that precedes it, you need to assume that we are now in a bullish market structure on the H12. Any sort of bullish market structure on the H1, I want to start longing into. So when we flip this level, what do? I want to start looking for setups on the H1 to get long. I'm going to ignore bearish setups. I'm not shorting that. I don't care. I want to be longing a low, a high, a higher low, a higher high. This is a classic Mayne ICT type of setup right here. There's the order block that broke market structure, retest, boom. And this will happen over and over again. Maybe you don't catch this run up here, but what do you have here? Exact same thing, right? You have a low, you have a high, you have a higher low. Where does the higher low form? Right in the down move, right? That led to, there's your bullish order block on the hourly. That led to the up move. If I pull my fib from here to here, that is going to be the OTE retracement. 7-9 right there on the money. And you do it over and over and over again, right? Here's a breaker right here, right? Low, reclaim, retest, boom. Any of these pullbacks is longable. This is just an uptrend. Exact same setup. There's your break in market structure. It comes back. It retests the order block. It also tests the mid-range, and you're long. And all of these low time frame entries are based on this H12 shift. So that's what I'm trying to nail into your head here, guys. Like going into the low time frame and finding entries is not that hard. The key part of what I just explained about Bitcoin and what I'm explaining here is once we had this trend shift at a key spot, ran a low, reclaimed it. The H12 is now bullish. So when you go to the H1 and you take longs, the probability of those working are way higher. Not every single long trigger is going to play out perfectly, but when your low time frame trades are in line with the high time frame order flow. So if the H12 is bullish, H1 bullish setups have a higher probability of working. And this was your trigger here to start getting into those trades. What was your confirmation to continue to look for longs? We made another higher high on the H12, and then we made another higher high and another higher high. So every time we made a higher high on the H12, when you're on the H1, those long setups you're taking are going to have that much more of a likelihood of working. And it all started here. This was the trend change from a downtrend, lower highs and lower lows, to boom, now we're in an uptrend. You need to be hunting long. So who cares if you miss the bottom? If you're able to spot when the trend changes on the high time frame, when you zoom into the low time frame, you now know I'm ignoring bearish triggers. I'm only looking for longs. Where do we go here on Ethereum? I thought we would kind of come up to here. That's kind of the level that I was watching for a retest. Because on the weekly, there's nothing. On the 3-day, there's nothing. On the daily, right, that's essentially the same level that I just marked out. So very similar to Bitcoin. I would not be surprised if Ethereum gets one more push up here, right, and then some sort of distribution and a pullback. So only reason I would short this is if it runs this current high, similar on Bitcoin, right? Run the current high and then break back down. So it's about 3250, give or take. So if we get some sort of run on the high here, run the high, back below that level, and then ultimately back below the highs, those would be kind of the areas that I'm interested in shorting. Back into the range high would be kind of where I would target. If this is going to run the high or not, I don't know yet. But the area that I think I would be interested in bidding is if you look at we have a couple key levels here on Ethereum to consider for pullbacks. This is the monthly open here. And then we also have all of these highs here sitting right around, kind of 27, 2800 that I would consider kind of, your relevant SR level. So I would probably take this and say that is kind of the area where I think we might get a dip to. So we might dip to here. We might dip a little lower. And if we do, and then we reclaim this, and obviously if we reclaim here, that's the kind of long I want to take towards much higher. If we run above the high, give me some sort of short trigger, then sure, targeting back into the range high, which is at 2900 and into here, right? This is your order block too for this current leg. So this would be an area that I expect to be support. But yeah, this is kind of where I'd be watching on Ethereum. Range high is here. This is your bullish order block that led to this break. We ran all of these highs now. All of these highs have been run. So I'm leaning towards longing the dip on Ethereum if we get one down to kind of the 27 to 2800 area. And the only reason I would short is if we get some sort of distribution occur here. This does not look like distribution to me yet. I wouldn't be surprised if we see one more run above the high and come up and test this level of interest. Kind of looks like it wants to trade a little bit higher. We'll see. Still too early to tell. This is going to be the key right here. It comes back here and rejects, it's going to go down. But if it flips this, that becomes a breaker, and that will probably give us our next push, and then I would look to short a break back below. And yeah, if we come back down to this 27, 2800 area, I think I'd be interested in potentially getting in a long. We also have a nice monthly level right here, actually. That monthly close, that monthly open, that could be an area of interest too. Lines up very well with our level. So Ethereum BTC trading within this range here. We had a big rejection here, right at this monthly level, right? And that caused this, temporary top. And then we've had a nice, kind of downtrend line breakout. If you are a trend line trader, right? Breakout, retest, and it's pushing up. But the way that I would be trading this right now is just like how I had it marked right at the start here. We're in this kind of range here on the H12, came and tested the low, right? Test the low, test the low, and now we're fighting at the mid-range here. So if we can hold above the mid-range, we should see a move towards the upper part of the range. If we lose the mid-range, then I'll be looking to buy the dip on this thing. I do believe that Ethereum BTC remains bullish. We just broke market structure here, right? Similar to the Bitcoin bottom, ran a low, reclaimed it, and we're pushing up. I would assume that, if this area here holds, we'll see another leg up. It doesn't mean that these have to go up, but it will mean that Ethereum is going to continue outperforming Bitcoin. That's what it means, right? So I think I'm still bullish on this. Maybe we come down here. But I like it over the mid-range. If we're holding above the mid-range, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a move up towards this high. That is the next target for Ethereum BTC, assuming that it remains bullish. If it comes down here and breaks down, and then breaks down again, then things get really ugly. Then we're probably going to go run these two lows. So I would only short this probably if it lost this level here. And that's a far way away from where we are now. But I'm kind of more interested in longing the dip on this until it tells me that it wants to go down, which I don't think it does yet. There's another shift on the H12. So the H12 remains bullish, and as long as it doesn't pull back deeper than, kind of 0.064, I think you long the dip on this and you target up here. So this is what we need to see, right? If this is going to push higher, it needs to break that. Because right now, yes, this made a lower low and it's pulling back into a bearish order block. So you could short this, but you are shorting counter trend. The high time frame is in an uptrend, but it doesn't mean that this can't pull back from here. It absolutely can, but I would like to see it move above this high and then go. But I talked about this early in the stream. This is a bearish order block. This is a completely legit short with your stop right there. There's your entry. And if it breaks a low here, then get in on the next pullback, right? Really appreciate you guys tuning in as usual. I hope you guys find these streams valuable. Please share them, retweet them, like the tweets. Also, check out my altcoin video yesterday and the altcoin video I did the week before. If you have questions, hit me up on Twitter. Join my Discord. It is completely free. In my description on my Twitter, there is a Yat. Click the Yat. There's a link to the Discord in there. Hopefully this was helpful. I really appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you guys later this week.